Let's go back to the venue of that COPE briefing, bring in our politics reporter Mbali. Thethani and Mbali, you were in the room as that chaos ensued. Take us back to what happened and what Mosiuoa Lekota's reaction was as all hell broke loose.
Well, certainly, Tembegile, of course, you would have seen a bit earlier on that during the press briefing, that chaos, just erupted out of nowhere while we were being briefed by the leadership of COPE, and of course that is the President alongside with the Acting Secretary General as well as its national chairperson. But of course, Tembegile, it's something that one would never predict that would take place in a press briefing where scuffles just broke out, and we saw those who are affiliated to, they say, are members of COPE and definitely being affiliated to the likes of Willie Madisha, allegedly being affiliated to Willie Madisha, as well as Dennis Bloem, Willie Madisha being the Deputy President of COPE, and of course Dennis Bloem being the spokesperson. But of course everyone was shocked. We understand that there was indeed members of COPE which were outside this press briefing and this venue, and there were concerns saying that while they were not being involved, and of course they saying that those who are here are not elected to be here. But just joining us now, Tembegile, just to give us his reaction, we are joined by the President. Some say he's suspended, he says he's not. The President of COPE himself, Mosiuoa Lekota. You know, when you look at what transpired here today, one would say that it is quite disappointing to see where COPE finds itself at the moment.
Yes, of course, yes, I do find myself disappointed about this. I have been cautious not to go to any gathering where I was not invited, because I wouldn't have known what would happen. Now, I therefore suggested that we should meet here and have our discussion here with the media, because the media has been really on my case to say, well, can I brief them about what is the situation. But also there are a lot of our own people, our members and our supporters, who have also been saying, Mr. Lekota, but please, can you please say something? We want to know whether these things we are being told about you, whether they are true or not true. So I really felt, no, we need to have this briefing. And fortunately, when I spoke to the comrades, they agreed that we must have this meeting.
Those on the other end, on the other side, are accusing you of dividing the party, are accusing you of running parallel structures. What seems to be the issues here? Earlier on I asked the questions of who is the real COPE? Who do we take seriously?
Well, let me tell you that, sometime now, we lost our Deputy General Secretary, and then after that, our General Secretary also passed on. We've waited and tried to get comrades together to hold a meeting so that we can elect a General Secretary and a Deputy General Secretary. Ultimately, 2-3 weeks back, I called a meeting to Bloemfontein. I personally issued invitations to all the comrades. On the weekend, heading to that meeting, some of the comrades, like Mr. Madisha, like Dennis Bloem, Mr. Seko, and so on, they said, no, I must postpone this meeting. I said, no, it can no longer go on now. We can't go on without a General Secretary. Let's go to a meeting where we can sit together and elect a General Secretary. No, people are going to fight this or that. Who's going to fight over what? Because all we need is to elect any one of the people who gets more votes, and then they become the General Secretary. And then the party can continue to operate. Because the party can't operate without a General Secretary. But it was in vain, because they decided that they're not going to go to that meeting and so on. It's a lot of things which I don't have time to repeat them. Then I decided, no, I must go to the meeting, because I had asked comrades, various comrades in various provinces, please to come. And people went, and then And then that's where we decided to elect as acting secretary the Mhlapha.
Your party members are also accusing you of clinging on to power, saying that, because of the medical procedures you've had, you also disclosed here to us that you're struggling or had prostate cancer. You underwent an operation for prostate cancer. Do you think that because of the medical procedures you have had, that maybe you should take a step back? Or do you think that you're still fit enough to continue in your role, and you should continue in your role as president of COPE?
Without even dealing with that issue, if you don't want to come to a meeting, and I'm calling a meeting for everybody to come, how are you going to get me to resign? And how are you going to elect somebody in my place? How do you take the decision? There's two of us or there's three of us. We want you to resign. No, let's go to a meeting. Let's get people together to a meeting. So if you don't want that, how do you get me to resign? And how can you say that I refuse to resign? I can't resign when I'm told by 2 people or 3 people. I must go to a meeting properly constituted and let that meeting say, look, we have this reasons and that, and we think you must resign. With pleasure. Section 7, subsection 3 of the Constitution says that I cannot stay on as president unless I've completed, if I've done 2 terms. And I'm about to end my second term. What is so desperate? Why should I resign on the street?
Thank you very much. Of course, that is the president of COPE, the Mosiuoa Lekota, just talking about the other faction as well, saying that he has called meetings on numerous occasions, asking for the party to convene and have meetings to sort out the issues that the party faces with its general secretary as well as its deputy general secretary. But he says that the other part, which is the deputy president as well as the national spokesperson, are not willing to come together and have that meeting, and saying that, he will not resign if he's told by certain individuals. It should be a meeting, a constitutional meeting that is held, that then asks him to step down from his position.
Mbali, Thethani, thank you very much for that update. We are continuing with our coverage here on Newzroom Afrika of the dramatic scenes at a briefing that was to be addressed by the President of the Congress of the People, by his account, Mosiuoa Lekota.